Hey, welcome to Biddy's Math Binder. Before we start, make sure that you have your pencil and paper out. You can't learn math unless you have paper and pencil, so let's go ahead and get that stuff out. Today we're going to be talking about direct, inverse, and joint variation. Okay? When we're talking about direct variation, that's going to mean we need to multiply. Looking at inverse variation, that's telling us that we're going to need to divide. And when we look at joint variation, that tells us that we need to multiply multiple things. Okay? So let's take a look at this and see what this means. If I say that y varies directly as x, I need to come up with the formula that matches that statement. Okay? And we just said that direct meant to multiply. So this looks like y equals k times x. Y varies directly as x. All right, we multiplied that k times that x. What you need to make sure you remember is there's always a k in your formulas. It won't be mentioned in the statement. You just have to remember that it's there. K is just any constant number. So knowing that, if I say g varies directly as h, that means g equals k times h, again, because direct means to multiply. A varies directly as b, a equals k times b. Now, when we look at inverse, that means to divide. So if I say y varies inversely as x, that's going to be y equals k divided by x. All right, we still have that k. It's still not mentioned. We just have to remember that that k is included in the formula. M varies inversely as n. That's going to be m equals k divided by n. And g varies inversely as h. That's going to be g equals k divided by h. Lastly, we have joint variation, which means to multiply multiple things. So for instance, in this example, I would have y varies as x and z. So we're going to multiply k times x times z. A varies jointly as b and c. That's going to look like a equals k times b times c. And last example, j varies jointly as l and m. J equals k times l times m. So really, this stuff really isn't terribly hard, okay? So I do want you to remember that k is called your constant of variation. So if you're ever given a quiz or a test or anything like that, and it asks, what is your constant of variation? They are asking you what that k value is. So now let's translate each statement into a formula, and we're going to use k as our constant of variation. So V varies jointly as B and H. So remember, jointly means to multiply multiple things. So V equals K times B times H. All right, easy enough? Let's look at number 2. P varies directly as the square of V and inversely as R. Okay, so this has 2 of them in there. We have to remember that directly means to multiply and inversely means to divide. So P varies directly as the square of V, multiply, and inversely divide as R. The mass of a cement block varies jointly as the length, width, and thickness of the block. Again, what does jointly mean? That means to multiply multiple things. So the mass equals K times L times W times T. The volume of a gas varies directly as the temperature and inversely as the pressure. Okay, so directly means to multiply and inversely means to divide. So the volume of a gas varies directly as the temperature and inversely as the pressure. Multiply by temperature, divide by the pressure. So I'm going to make this a little different now, and I'm actually going to give you some numbers to work with here. So find y when x is negative 6, if y varies directly as x, and y equals 8 when x equals 2. Okay, I have a 3-step method that is foolproof. If you follow my 3 steps, you will get these answers right every time. The first step is to identify your keyword. In this case, it's directly. What does directly mean? To multiply. So, y equals k times x. There's my equation. First step. Second step is to find the part of the equation that has the most, or sorry, not equation, but the part of the question that has the most information. Okay, so I have find y when x is -6, but I also have y is 8 when x is 2. Well, that's the most information. I know both y and x. I'm going to plug that into my equation that I just wrote down in red. So 8 is y, 2 is x. Well, I can actually find out what k is at that point by dividing by 2. That's my k. I'm going to rewrite the equation now, only I'm going to plug in k because I've found my constant of variation. My constant of variation is 4. My third step in my method is to actually finally answer the question. So find y when x is -6. Okay, I don't know what y is, but I know that x is 3. What is 4 times 3? 12. That is your final answer. Those 3 steps work every time, I'm telling you. So let's look at another question. Find y when x is 3. If y varies inversely as x is 4 when y is 16. So again, find your keyword and write down the equation. Inversely means to divide, so y equals k over x. Next, find the piece with the most information. Well, x is 4 and y is 16. That's the most information. So I can go ahead and plug in 16 where y is and 4 where x is. I can actually get k by multiplying by 4 on both sides. And now I can rewrite the equation knowing that my constant of variation is 64. Finally, answer the question. Find y when x is 3. What is 64 divided by 3? 21.3 repeating. There's my answer. Simple as that. Let's look at another one. Find y when x is 1.5 if y varies directly as x and y is -16 when x is 6. Keyword is directly. So that means to multiply k times x. Next, I find the piece with the most information and I plug them into my equation. I want to get k alone by dividing by 6. I can reduce that to get -8/3 as my k. I'm going to rewrite that equation now with my constant of variation plugged in. -8/3 times x. Finally, I can answer the question. What is y if x is 1.5? Well, 1.5 times -8/3 is -4. Why don't you try this one on your own? I'm going to put it up, pause this video, and then you can hit play when you want to watch me work it out. All right, so find y when x is 4, z is 15. If y varies jointly as x and z, x is 8, y is 80, z is 10. Keyword is jointly. Multiply multiple things. Y equals k times x times z. Our next step is to find the piece with the most information and go ahead and plug that in. So 80 equals k times 8 times 10. Well, 8 times 10 is 80, so I'll go ahead and simplify that. I can divide 80 on both sides to get the k is 1. Now I'm going to rewrite that with my constant of variation included. Finally, I can answer the question. What is y if x is 4 and z is 15? Y is 60. All right? How do we feel? I'm hoping we feel confident and good. Now I'm going to move on to something that looks a little bit more intimidating. Immediately we see a word problem here. Just because the problem is beefed up with words does not make it any more difficult, okay? My 3-step method is still going to work on a problem that looks like this. So let's take a look. First, well, I guess I should read it. Okay, the price of a diamond is directly proportional to the square of the weight. If a 1 carat diamond costs $2,000, find the price of a 0.7 carat diamond. Well, my key word is directly. It says the price of a diamond is directly proportional to the square of the weight. Directly means to multiply. So let's think about this. The price varies directly as the square of the weight. Now I have my equation. Next, find the part with the most information. A 1 carat diamond costs $2,000. So the price is $2,000 and the weight is 1 carat. I need to solve for K. Well, 1 squared is really just 1, and 1 times K is K. So K is 2,000. I'm going to rewrite that equation that I have, except instead of K, I'm actually going to put what that constant of variation is, which happens to be 2,000 in this example. Now I can finally answer the question. Find the price of a 0.7 carat diamond. I don't know what the price is. I want to know if it's 0.7. So I plug that in for the weight, and I get my answer is $980. Okay? Let's try another example. The distance that a free-falling object falls varies directly as the square of the time that it falls. If an object has fallen 36 meters in 3 seconds, find the distance that it would have fallen in 5 seconds. So the distance varies directly as the square of time. Directly means to multiply. So distance varies directly as the square of time. Find the piece with the most information. 36 meters in 3 seconds. So the distance is 36, the time is 3 seconds. I know 3 squared is actually 9. I can divide by 9 on both sides to get my constant of variation. Plug it back into my formula like so. Now I can answer the questions. What is the distance if it falls in 5 seconds? And 5 squared is 25. 4 times 25 is 100 meters. Make sure to include your units. If you do not include your units, I do not count it right. Always include your units. Next question. When air is pumped into a tire, the pressure required varies inversely as the volume of the air. If the pressure is 30 pounds per square inch when the volume is 140 cubic inches, find the pressure when the volume is 100 cubic inches. So, pressure varies inversely as the volume. What does inversely mean? To divide. So pressure varies inversely as the volume. There's my formula. Now, most information. 30 pounds per square inch is the pressure. The volume is 140. So I'm going to go ahead and plug that in. I'll need to multiply by 140 on both sides to figure out what K is. Now that I know K, I'm going to plug it back in to the equation. At this point, I can actually answer the question. Find the pressure when the volume is 100. So what is the pressure if the volume is 100? Well, the pressure is 42 pounds per square inch. Again, remember your units. I want you to try this next one, but on your own. So go ahead and pause the video, and then you can check to see if you match my answer in the end. A bicycle uses 2 gears so that a shaft can turn at a different speed than the pedals. The speed of the gears varies inversely as the number of teeth in the gear. If one gear has 35 teeth and is moving at 50 revolutions per minute, how fast is the second gear going if it has 25 teeth? All right, so the first thing we need to do is find the keyword. The speed varies inversely as the number of teeth. Inversely means to divide, so speed varies inversely as the number of teeth. Perfect. Most information, 35 teeth, 50 revolutions. Go ahead and plug that in, multiply by 35 on both sides, and we get 1,750 is my constant of variation. I want to plug that back into the original formula so that I know what I'm going to use in my next step to finally answer the question, how fast are we going if it's got 25 teeth? Well, let's plug in 25 and get my answer of 70 revolutions per minute. Again, pause this video, see what you can do on your own, and then hit play to see if your answer matches mine. I will warn you though, there is a little bit of a trick in this one, so pay attention closely when you read. The simple interest for a savings account is jointly proportional to the product of time and the principal. After 6 months, the interest of a principal of $2,000 is $55. For a principal of $5,000 for a term of 7 years, find the interest. So what I notice first is it says time is in years, yet it gives it to me in months. So I have to think about that when I'm going to set up this equation. All right, so I want to kind of keep that in the back of my mind. First, let's go ahead and identify our keyword. The interest is jointly proportional to a product of time and principal. So multiplying multiple things, I write out my formula. Next, most information, 6 months, 2,055. Now, after 6 months, if I think about 6 months in terms of years like the problem asks, I need to remember that actually 6 months is 1/2 of a year. Also, that sentence is a little wordy, so let's make sure we reread it and make sure we know what it's saying. It says, after 6 months, the interest of a principal of 2,000 is 55. So the interest is 55 and the principal is the 2,000. So let's go ahead and write that out, plug it into my formula. I know that 1/2 times 2,000 is actually 1,000, so let me simplify that. Divide by 1,000 on both sides to get my constant of variation. So I'm rewriting my formula with K plugged in. Now I can answer the question. What is the interest if the principal is $5,000 and it's 7 years? All right, so let's go ahead and plug that information in and multiply it out. $1,925 is my interest. Okay? All right, last question. All right? I want you to pause this video, work it out. I know you're going to get this right. Come back and check in a couple minutes. The amount of heat necessary to change the temperature of an aluminum can is jointly proportional to the product of the mass of the can and the temperature change desired. If it takes 1.54 kilocalories of heat to change the temperature of a 0.028 kilogram aluminum can to 250 degrees Celsius, find the heat necessary to change the temperature of a 0.054 kilogram can to 300 degrees Celsius. So first we want to identify that keyword. The heat is jointly proportional to the mass and the temperature. So heat multiply K times M times T. Now I want to find the piece with the most information. I got the 154, the 0.028, and the 250 degrees. I'm going to plug those in where they need to go. And I will multiply out that right-hand side first. Divide by 7. 0.22 is my constant of variation. Let's go ahead and rewrite that formula. And now we can answer the question. What is the heat if we plug in 0.054 and 300 degrees Celsius? We'll multiply that out and we get 3.564 kilocalories of heat. That is our lesson today, guys. Be sure and check back for more math videos.